Bit of a weird frame.
Frames. Does your camera make frames? Frames. Do you use natural frames?
I have broken the preamp on my Fuji X-T4 somehow. It died during the video that I recorded yesterday, so I'm back to the Tascam DR10L, which I do recommend if you're interested in getting into video production as far as weddings go. I would say that is the number one suggestion that I would have for, I guess, a lav pack. I don't really love to do wireless. I feel like lots of things have gone wrong and lots of interruptions have gone if I'm using Bluetooth or the Rode Go system or something like that. I don't trust that. Maybe a Sennheiser, a proper wireless kit, but I would much rather just have a lav like this on somebody, and you can hide this. You can hide this inside the jacket if it's a groom in a suit. Or I've never really tried to put a mic on a bride before because I feel like it's very intrusive and there's nowhere to really put it unless I guess they have pockets. But if they have pockets, then I don't know. Mic the groom, and hopefully somebody's wearing a suit at the wedding if you want to catch vows. This is kind of I wouldn't even say it's the third backup that we usually do. So if I'm, say for instance, doing a ceremony and the couple's at the front, I want to have a microphone on them so that if the officiant's using a handheld mic, I want that feed off the board, wherever that is, into usually a Zoom I guess I'm using the H5, Tim uses the H6. They're both great products. Even the H4n is totally good still. So I have that, so I'm getting the feed from that. We have a room mic usually, just kind of pointed in the direction of what's happening to kind of capture ambient audio, or if there's any musicians playing, we'll have a microphone over there, as well as this one. So again, if you're looking to get into video, not only video backups, but also audio backups of important things like ceremony and vows and whatnot. But I would say more often than not, we usually go with this mic that's actually on somebody. Essentially, if it's a couple getting married, they're probably standing like this. If you have a mic here and it's kind of picking up, you have to do some modification and amplify the other person a little bit. But overall, I would say it's kind of the best possible case. The actual handheld mic feels, usually it's running through a compressor or something into the board, and it always sounds like it's a very official thing, whereas I find the audio from this sounds a lot more natural, and you can process it however you want. Today, the Q&A podcast, if you are a member of the members group, you can submit a question and I will answer it. There's 50 comments. I'm not sure, I feel like some of them are responses to other people, but it might be a long video. I'm also going to put this up as a podcast on my podcast channel, I guess. There's a link in the description below if you want to hop over there and subscribe to it. This used to be a Patreon only podcast. For the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing it here for you publicly. And then I'm also going to be posting it over on the Wedding Photography podcast as well. And then also in the group, as of, I guess today, I'm recording this on Wednesday, but on Thursday, the first winner to the image competition, which was a water theme, is going to be announced, and they win $100 US money. So if you're into winning money, maybe hop over there and drop your image in next week's contest. We're gonna run this for 4 weeks as kind of a test to see how it works. And essentially it's pretty simple. We post a topic and then you comment with a photo below. You can use it as an excuse to go out there into the world and create a new image, or an image that you've already created you can enter if you want. Everyone gets one entry, so make sure it counts. And whoever gets the most likes just wins the $100, and that's all. Send it to you by PayPal and you can spend that on a lot of pizzas if you want. Or whatever else you want, but pizzas are a good investment, I think. So right now, I will begin the questions. First question, do you suggest multiple Instagram accounts for different types of work? An account for commercial work, one for real estate, one for weddings. So I am a prime example of probably what not to do. That said, it has been working out pretty well for me. If you go to my Instagram, it is a very scattered mess between wedding images and travel images. I feel like those two genres go okay together, and I also do try my best to mix them and set up shoots whenever I'm on location to make sure that I am generating wedding, couples, and portrait content while also in different places. So I feel like everything kind of goes together well. I feel like had I just only created a travel photography account, I feel like it could have been very successful, as well as my regular wedding photography account as well. But I think in order to keep people kind of interested, it is okay to post some different content that would be relevant to the people that are potentially getting married. I would say from my experience and from working here, and also just, I don't know, maybe personal bias, that wedding photography is probably one of the best jobs that you can have. So I would probably position that as the kind of my primary, even if it's not my primary income yet, I would still position myself as a wedding photographer primarily. If I was doing straight commercial work, like very almost like clinical lighting, and it was very different from my wedding work, I would likely start a different account for that. The other thing, I guess, with commercial work is that if you are doing a lot of that or real estate or anything that really they're hiring a photography studio or they're hiring you as the photographer, but they're more so hiring kind of the look and feel that you can give. In that case, you're probably going to be able to actually hire associate photographers as well. So I would probably be starting another business entirely under that to create your commercial side of your business, so that potentially that might be a business that you could sell at some point, or you could have like one of your associates take it over or whatever it might be. There's more kind of leverage in there. I feel like with weddings, it's I've seen a few people do it successfully, but it's very hard to start a studio concept with a lot of different associates. People, when they're getting married, really do just kind of want to hire you as a photographer. So I've noticed that my commercial couples or my commercial clients have been a lot less like, oh, you're going to send like Tim today? Cool, that's awesome. And then sometimes that works out really well because I think I spoke to this on the last Q&A podcast, that if you are doing kind of a subscription content generation model for local businesses, and that means you're going in every month to do kind of their social media content, and if you pair that with the social, like the actual management aspect as well, and you're posting everything for them, it can earn quite a lot of money. But what I found was that if I go in the first time, I generate a lot of work. I go in a second time, if I'm going into a shop, it's going to be very difficult for me to generate all new content in the exact same space. But if Tim or if Lindsay goes or Liam goes or someone else goes, I feel like they're able to generate different content with a different eye going into that space. So I think maybe there is value depending on kind of which direction your commercial business goes. All right, next question here. Scott asks, we obviously learned from you. How do you continue learning and growing yourself? Who are your inspirations? Where do you learn new techniques and things from? And where do you find the time? So I would say currently right now, I guess I can speak to that since I'm the most current with it. I am in the process right now of listening, I'm loading them up right now, of listening to, I guess, 5 audiobooks. And it's very difficult. I'll screenshot that so you can just see them. I've gotten into a few of them. I've gotten very far into some of them. As weird as it is, so I like pulling thoughts and ideas from books that are definitely outside of the wedding photography space. I've learned a lot of I guess maybe not learn business things, but I've learned a lot from listening to Jim Carrey's. I think it starts as a memoir. It's called Memoirs of Misinformation. Starts as a memoir, turns into an apocalypse novel. And I would say that I've learned quite a lot of things just about psychology from that book, which is not something that I expected. I expected like, hey, I want to hear some cool stories about Jim Carrey, and I got something very different than what I expected. So that's pretty cool. Flourish is, I'll be doing kind of a summary of this book's teachings, I guess, specifically for people in the creative space, because I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there, and it's essentially about that happiness is a construct of a bunch of different elements, and if you can deconstruct happiness, you can kind of focus on specific points to generate overall happiness for your lifetime. So that's really cool, and I'll be going pretty in depth about that. Simon Sinek, I've listened to The Infinite Game a bunch of times. Basically, there's in business and life, there's finite games, and a finite game would be like a soccer game. There are official rules, there are referees, there like you go there, you do the thing, you play the game, somebody wins, somebody loses. Maybe it's part of a tournament, maybe it's part of a season, but there's kind of that final win at some point. An infinite game is something like wedding photography, that if I book a wedding and you miss out on that booking, I don't win wedding photography. I'll never win wedding photography. That it's an ongoing game that you sign up to play the long term. So I think if you haven't read that book, or even, I know he has videos on it. If you can find a video where he basically summarizes the book in 10, 15 minutes, it's probably definitely worth listening to. Simon Sinek also did a book called Find Your Why, which I think was the book that came out after The Infinite Game. And essentially that is, I guess from like a wedding photography standpoint, it comes down to that when you're writing your bio and you're deciding why you actually want to be a wedding photographer, if you can really kind of hone down the key pieces of your life and the stories in your life that made you want to become a wedding photographer, that you can create a business that's actually kind of true to what you want to be doing in your life, and then also like just stories that are really good marketing tools that are really sticky that you can tell with 100% honesty, because it is the reason that you became a wedding photographer. And it requires some digging, and it requires, in this book specifically, this is kind of like the second, I guess the information manual, or it's usually, I think, a written book. And basically it recommends that you pair yourself with somebody else to basically go through your stories and figure out why it is that you've become a wedding photographer, to have that kind of third-party outlook. And it can't be somebody like your husband or your wife. It has to be somebody completely third-party to give kind of a much better idea overall. And then The Artist's Journey by Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. I don't know why I bring that up right now, but he did, and I discovered that we were watching the movie. I stopped the movie. It's been a long time since Lindsay and I have gotten through a single movie in one sitting. I feel like this is true for all content, that a lot of us went really hard on content, I think, when the whole situation here started. And we watched a lot of television, a lot of Netflix, and now I'm becoming that my body's like almost rejecting it, that I feel like I go through seasons where I absorb a lot of just content, and then I have to create a lot of stuff in order to kind of balance that. So I feel like I'm in that second season right now. So watching Legend of Bagger Vance, we stopped it after, I'm gonna say, maybe a half hour or so. And then the next day I start reading this book, and he mentions The Legend of Bagger Vance, and it turns out that he's the writer of it, and he starts quoting it and stuff. Artist's Journey, I think if you just want kind of that pump up novel, it's very short. I think it's like 2 hours, 15, 20 minutes total. I would say that's a very, very inspiring story overall. But I will say that it might be the most annoying audiobook of all time, because I'm an hour and 10 minutes into this book, and I'm on chapter 80, as you can see down there. Chapter 80. So it's like every 3 sentences is like chapter 75, and then another 3 sentences, chapter 76. So upset about that. It's a very loud automobile. Mason says, loving the Lightroom presets, curious if they were made from a flat picture profile, or if you normally have a picture profile in camera to get the look to match your Lightroom presets. In my experience with Nikon, the picture profile that you shoot on, I don't think really matters, that it can easily be overridden if it, I think regardless of what picture profile I shoot on, it just loads the raw file in, and I usually process from that. If I am processing an engagement session or a family session, then I'm processing from JPEG rather than going into the raw files. In that case, usually I'm doing just a standard picture profile, and then I'm adding the preset on top. And sometimes you have to select one of the different presets in order to kind of best match, I think, with the JPEG. But yeah, so I just kind of shoot standard profile, I would say, pretty much all of the time, with the exception of this Fuji, which I'm shooting on NC. Some very loud automobiles around today. Andrew asks, hey Taylor, recently started my wedding photography business and have about 14 bookings next year, but none for 2022 so far. When is the best time to start advertising for these dates, and should I be raising my prices? I've tried running a few Facebook advertisements with no luck. I'm not sure when the best time to do this is, and I'm fairly inexperienced and not much portfolio to show potential clients. One, that's amazing that you have 14 weddings for next year. That's far above, I would say, what the usual kind of arc is. What that basically means is that by the time you've shot those 14 weddings, you're probably gonna have 24 weddings booked for 2022. And you can also use each of those individual weddings to really kind of market hard for absolutely everything. What I would recommend kind of in this time is just, again, like setting up as many of the shoots as that you possibly can yourself. So styled shoots, if one of those weddings is at a venue that you want to start a relationship with, say, hey, like send the venue an email, and if you can find the specific person to send the email to, send the direct email to that specific marketing person or whoever it might be, and send them an email, be like, hey, I have a wedding next, whatever, with couple, whatever their names are, but I'd love to set up a styled shoot before that, like no cost to you, and we'll make it as easy on you as possible, which means that usually you just show up on like a Tuesday morning or whatever, and you don't need anything from the venue, you need the space. So I would say setting up everything yourself. If you don't feel qualified in that, you can also kind of do this with a small team or a dress shop, or really anybody that you potentially know in the wedding space already. I think that's kind of the first thing, that if you're just reaching out to random planners, likely none of them are going to get back to you. But if you know a florist, or if you're like your parents know like I don't know, like a dress shop owner or something, to leverage whatever connections you have. I spoke to this in the 3-hour workshop that we did here. It's on YouTube as well as on the new site. And I spoke to something called the Rodriguez list, which is essentially when Rodriguez did the movie El Mariachi, that he kind of sat down and took stock of all of the locations that he had friends at or that he knew that he could use in order to film a film for like basically zero budget. I think they paid for film, they paid for editing, and that was it. Everything else was just sourced from like people that they knew, and that it's like, oh, like my uncle works at a gas station, like maybe we can shoot there at like 2 in the morning after close. And they basically pieced it together like that. It's like, oh, my cousin owns a bus, like we can use that bus. Like let's figure out how to incorporate that bus into the script. So basically that's what he did. What you can pull from that is really any locations that you have, any connections that you have, like really leverage those. And if it's somebody that will benefit from having any sort of wedding portfolio shot in their space, like for instance, small restaurants here, even though they might not actively be marketing it, and they're certainly never gonna reach out to you because they're quite honestly probably pretty busy. If you approach them and you're like, hey, can we use the restaurant from like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. before you open on a random like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, and we're gonna bring in a couple, we're gonna set up a small little wedding shoot and you guys can use it on your social media, that they're gonna be super happy to open the doors for you, and you might even get some gift cards as payments for helping out with the team's marketing. So that would be my suggestion. And other than that, I think you'll be fine because you have so many weddings booked already. As far as actually marketing goes, I posted in the members group earlier today kind of how my season usually kind of structures. And if you kind of, I'm not sure if it's gonna be the same this year, but that's my usual year. I would say advertising for 2020 is probably going to begin September, October, lightly, and then really hard probably in January, February, because everyone gets engaged over kind of the Christmas, New Year season. And then end of January is usually my busiest booking time all through February. It used to be the second week of January was like the time that I would get lots of inquiries, but it kind of, I don't know, people are becoming a little more chill, I guess, and waiting a couple of weeks. But that's what I've noticed over the past like 15 years of doing this, is kind of how that cycle goes. All right, Teresa says, thoughts on delivering full-size gallery and also smaller-sized options for web. If you deliver through a lot of the gallery systems, including Pixieset, which is the one that I'm the most familiar with, but I'm sure all of the other ones do it, you can actually set what the download size is. So if they download the full gallery, they'll get the full HD size, or HD video mode after the Sony A7 or A7S launch this week. They'll get the full high-res images if they download the full gallery, but you can set, if they're downloading an individual image, what resolution that is. So that might be something worth doing. I would set it kind of web res plus, something that even if they did decide to print it, that it could work out pretty well. But you can customize that, and or you could upload an entirely different gallery that's web size if that's something that you'd like. All right, next question. Hey, I just got a ship notification for a new lens that I just got. A 90 millimeter Leica f2.8, which is a surprisingly tiny little lens, and also in Leica terms, surprisingly inexpensive. I think it was like $600, Canadian too, so like 400 US for a Leica lens. So hopefully it arrives and it's okay. I think they just threw the package at my door right now. It's back at home, so I should get going pretty quick for that. Workflow question. I get home, back everything up to 2 drives, all the RAWs not called yet. What do you, when you do a call and edit, what would be a good way to back up that portion, the edits and XMPs, a file sync? I want to know that option and get back to re-edit as well. So I don't really, I would say at least the called portion, I don't think I typically back that up. That's usually, I would say, a 30 to 45 minute process. If I lose that, it's not the end of the world necessarily. Actually, I guess I do. So here's how I do. So I go through, I call everything in Photo Mechanics still. Lightroom is pretty quick, especially if you optimize it, but I would say that Photo Mechanic, I like having the separation of kind of calling and making selects to actually dragging things into Lightroom. So when I go through in Photo Mechanic, I drag everything like you to 2 drives. One of them is my working drive, and that is where I will call from, and I will make all my selects on that drive. After that, I will drag everything to a Lightroom catalog, and I'll build the smart previews, and I'll copy that smart preview gallery to both of those drives. So I have kind of a smart preview backup of each of those, which essentially means that if you reconnected that Lightroom gallery, that it would just only select the files that you've called. So that's kind of my accidental backup of that, I would say. And then when I actually do the final file delivery and I export all the JPEGs, I'm uploading it, one to Pixieset as my gallery system, and then I'm also putting it on both of those drives as kind of the final versions of it. Also with videos as well, that if I'm uploading videos, I'm also putting those in an easy to find place in case somebody comes back like 5 years, 6 years from now and they're like, hey, like we lost our wedding video, can we have it back? That I'll be able to easily get that to them. So yeah, that's my answer to that. My question is, I procrastinate a lot. I mean, a lot, exclamation points. I get worked up on what lenses I'll take with me and what I'll shoot with and end up taking them all and then changing them all around to think I'll get a better shot with a different lens. Do you have any advice for professional warriors like me? I shoot on a D750 and have the 24-70, 35, 51.4 art and 85-1.8. For bigger weddings, not elopements, I'll hire a 70-200. I'd love to shoot primes only, but thinking of 35 and 85, but love my 50, can't decide. Send help and wine. So I would say to find whatever your kind of favorite lens is. For me personally, it's my 85. I've just discovered that, I guess, as an introverted person, that's kind of the right amount of space for me. I found that if I was shooting with a 50 or I shot with a 58 for a long period of time, I was always a little bit too far away and I have to crop a little bit in post. I found with 85 that it gets me kind of to the point that I'd like to be. And I would say I just basically use that 85 for absolutely everything unless there is a full out screaming reason that I have to change to either a 24 or my 35. I would say typically with my 85 or even with a 50 if you prefer, what I do is, like, if I want a wide shot, I just have to go for a bit of a walk this way and I can get the same kind of frame that I would get from a 35 with an 85 from way back there. And artistically it also looks a little bit different as well, which I kind of like. That you're seeing a wide shot and you're like, why does that wide shot look different than every other wide shot you've seen? It's because it's a wide shot but shot with a telephoto lens from way back. Or not to confuse things even more, but you can do it's a thing called Brenizer method, I guess, the bokeh panorama, where you can actually use an 85mm lens shot at like 1.8 or the 50 shot at 1.4, and you can shoot a panorama kind of all around them. So you take a photo of the couple and then you grab all the space and you merge all of that together in post, and it creates an image that you look at and you can't really understand from a creative side like how that was done, like what kind of lens was used. And it's because essentially what you're doing is you're creating such a large frame that the effective aperture comes down to something like 0.6. So you're shooting at like f.6 when you put all of those together, effectively, at least in viewing wise. So I don't know, another way to get out of it if you do have that 50 or 85 on and you're like, oh crap, I left everything else like at home. How do I get this wide shot? And there are possibilities and creative workarounds to that. But I would say kind of find that one lens and just get really familiar with it and just really like it, whether that's the 50 art or the 85 1.8. I think they're both great lenses, so select whatever you kind of enjoy working with the most and just try to spend as much time with it before having a hard reason to switch to something like a 35. And yeah, that would be kind of my suggestion for that. Next question. When a couple first inquires, what do you do? What do you talk about prices and bookings? So I actually have, well, one, I have all my email scripts that are up on the member site, but then I also just put up yesterday what I would consider kind of be my temporary response, because a lot of the weddings that are coming in right now and that are booking like 2, 3, 4 weeks from now are a lot different from my usual bookings. So I have an email template that goes through some packages based on that, as well as the, I guess, like all the details on how many weddings are booking kind of in that new style. So that's all available. It'll be the last post that's on the members website. So taylorjackson.com/members, I think, member or members. I don't know. I'll put the link in the description, but it's there. As far as what I actually talk about in wedding meetings, I will actually be posting that audio today, I think. Yes, today. I'll make a calendar note right now. It is just a full wedding meeting phone call with a couple and everything that we talk about. And basically, I don't really ever talk about pricing on the phone a whole lot. I'm not super comfortable doing that. And I just I don't necessarily avoid it. If it comes up, it comes up. But otherwise, I don't ever bring it up. They have the pricing document. They know how much things cost. I usually leave it at the end of the wedding meeting with like, hey, and if you decide you want to move forward, just send me an email with what package you like to go with and or any modifications if we've kind of talked about them, if they want an engagement shoot or they don't want an engagement shoot or whatever it might be. I just ask them to send through basically whatever their ideal package is, and then I kind of make something custom on that. But I do my best to not go too much into detail about pricing and things like that on the phone, because it's I guess primarily because it's less trackable for me. So if I say something, I want kind of the written record of that because I'll forget what I said on the phone. But if I have a written record of it, I can refer back to that 2 years from now and when the wedding comes up or whatever it might be. So yeah, that would be my advice, and check out that audio if you want to hear what an actual wedding meeting sounds like for me. Next question. I have been struggling for a couple months with an issue with my camera. I can't focus and recompose. Do you have any suggestions to why you can't focus and recompose? Push the shutter button halfway down and then it moves the camera up and down, side to side, and it moves the focus point even though I still have my finger on the shutter button. You're likely on, I would say, continuous autofocus, or that's set somewhere that it just keeps going. If you set your, I'm not sure if you're Nikon or Canon, but on Nikon at least, it's I think like AFC is continuous and AFS is kind of that single one shot, or AI servo, AI single shot I think in Canon terms. And basically if you set it to the second one, the servo or just the single shot, it should lock focus, and then as you recompose, it should just be whatever you're kind of like half pressing at. The other thing that I do a lot is I have my back button rather than autofocus on, so it's like an AF on button that's usually in the back of your camera, right where your thumb would be. A lot of people really pushed me hard to do back button focusing when I was first getting into photography, and to separate essentially your frame capture from your autofocus. Even back in like 2006, I felt that my camera was more than fast enough to do a wedding day, no problem, just using half presses to achieve focus. So I actually moved my AF on button back to focus lock. So like holding that back button actually locks my focus. So even if I am on autofocus continuous and I focus on something, I hold that button and I can recompose and it won't change the focus based on that. So I basically do the opposite of back button focus, but it's, I don't know, it seemed easier to me at the time, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way necessarily to do it. Joshua says, how do you sell yourself and experience rather than your photography? That is, if you separate yourself from, or how you separate yourself from other photographers and clients' eyes when you both take the same quality of pictures. I would say the way that I have discovered separating myself is by doing video content, and even though it didn't come naturally in the beginning, to just kind of keep doing it over and over again. I feel like also the travel component of my life kind of also comes into that as well, that if I am doing a lot of travel and I'm talking a lot about it, I'm making videos specifically about it, it's a very good thing for me to be able to send out casually in the email signature that like, hey, check out my travel show. And then they go to the travel show and then they see, one, that I have some level of credibility, because I feel like travel, regardless of how it's achieved, it comes with some sort of like little stamp of credibility, like, oh, this guy's taking pictures in New York or LA or whatever it might be. Even though in the beginning, for a very, very long time, really until last year, it was all just stuff that we did, like that we put into motion. So by doing all those trips and setting up all of our own shoots and just kind of making everything happen for ourselves, it was just, I don't know, it gives a lot of credibility. So I feel like that was the way that I kind of did it. Is that right for you? I don't know. You can do something locally. What we discovered when we did our food show specifically, is that everybody in the city loves food. They want to know about the secret spots. They want to know about everything food related in town. It's a very easy thing for people to share as well. And we discovered that, one, it got a lot of traction locally, and two, that the moms of the community absolutely love it. So anyone that, like, our target market is now, I would say 45 to 70. And by targeting kind of that group and knowing that those are the people that are going to share and they're going to push our food shows along, we're going to get way better traction online. And then also they all have sons and daughters, and when they get married, that I'm myself on the food show. I'm a wedding photographer, and the other character is my friend Nick, who's actually a chef, and we kind of play the whole like, I don't know anything about food, and he plays the I know everything about food dynamic. But I am credited and subtitled as a wedding photographer, and everyone knows that I'm a wedding photographer. So a lot of those people, if they follow me on Instagram, they're instantly going to be like, oh, like my son and daughter's getting married next year. And I actually wrote a post a long time ago. It will be on the new member site eventually, hopefully within the next couple of days. But it basically, it kind of goes through and it shows how many random bookings that I got, I think in 2018, because of that food show and because of a completely unrelated thing. So video for me has worked out really well, even though it did not come naturally, and it still does not come naturally. And I don't think that I'm the best at being in front of the camera, but it's something that I do, and it seems to be working to attract clients. So yeah, that might be a suggestion. All right, next question here. That was almost a song, almost sang to you. husband and wife team here. She does the photo mostly and I do video. She shoots two D750s. I shoot two Z6s. We have a 24, 35, 50, 85. I'm looking for a zoom lens for video for the 24 because it's manual focus only. Do you go with, it's a garbage truck. So the, I would say for a zoom lens for the Z6, I would probably just be staying, I guess depending on how much you use it, I would probably be doing the 24-70 f4. The 24-70 2.8, I've said it many times, is like 100% my favorite lens that Nikon has ever made. That said, it's very expensive, and if it's not a lens you're going to be using kind of all day, I don't know if there's necessarily a point. The 24-70, you can put it into DX mode as well, so you can go from 24-70 into DX, which will basically give you the multiplication of whatever 70 times 2 is, 140, I guess. That's not true. It'll give you like it'll bring you up to like 130, 127.5. 117 point, somewhere in there. Math is on the screen, or it's not if I forgot to add it. But basically you can go into DX mode, so 24-70 does become a little bit more expandable. And in video, like you can also go into 4K and you can crop into that 4K if you need to get even more reach. But I would say that that's probably good enough. I would say that the Z lenses are like really amazingly incredible. So I would probably be, whatever your main focal length is, I would probably be picking up something along those lines. So if it's a 50 and you like shooting at a 50, just kind of stay out of the way of the photos as well. I feel like that's a good thing to have. And again, you can pop into DX mode to get that extra reach if you ever do need it. I would say 85 might be a little bit too tight for kind of a main video lens on a wedding day. But I think a 35 or a 50 could probably do pretty good things. Or a 35 if you're worried about just like not being wide enough ever, that you can shoot that most of the day on DX if you want. But those Z series lenses are really, really incredible. So that would be my suggestions. Rachel asks, cheapest Mac that can handle highlight films, laptop or desktop. I have processed, so I shoot, I'm gonna make a video about this. I feel like this is important. I don't shoot 4K really ever. I don't know why. I feel like I need to get more of an understanding and figure out why I don't actually shoot 4K. I think the workflow of 4K sucks. I think that at the time I couldn't shoot 4K 60, so there was really no point. I think buffer-wise, it's like very taxing on your camera and your battery as well. And it doesn't really give a boost in quality in the way that most people are going to be watching this. Like it's very unlikely that a couple is going to rent out a full like dual projector screen in a theater to play their highlight film. So a lot of people are going to be watching it on their phone or watching it even on a 4K TV, and 1080 HD is totally fine for that. So going back, I would say my 2015 or 2016 MacBook Air was more than good enough to process like HD footage. That said, I don't know if Premiere, I feel like every time they do an update, it becomes more taxing on your system. So I would say go with something somewhat recent, but I think you'll be surprised that it's easier to process HD video than it is to process images in Lightroom for the most part. Lightroom is a lot more difficult on your system than video is. So I wouldn't stress too hard about that. If they're like the dude at the Apple store is trying to upsell you to like a Mac Pro whatever or the garbage can with like 160 gigs of RAM, you certainly don't need that. You don't need that. Nobody needs that unless you're processing like 12K footage in After Effects, in which case probably don't go Mac if you want that style of supercomputer. But yeah, like you'll be surprised with how little you can get away with. We use iMacs. There's two iMacs right here that we use often, as well as I think it was almost a base level iMac from a couple of years ago that I think I added an extra like 8 gigs of RAM to, and I was pretty happy with that until it just decided to not work one day, and I'm assuming something melted internally because there was a lightning storm. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Kyle says, how much did you charge for your first wedding, and were you a second shooter first? I was not a second shooter first. No one would hire me to photograph their wedding, or to hire me to photograph a wedding with them, unfortunately. So my first wedding, I did a few for free because I just wanted to get the experience in the portfolio. And then my first paid wedding, I believe, was like $1,800. And then I think the next wedding, I was like, oh, I can't believe somebody booked me for that. I think I went down to $800 because it was a smaller day and closer to home. So after that, I think I just kind of built myself up, I would say maybe $200, $300 every single booking. So I probably restarted somewhere around like $1,200, and then I would go up to like $1,500 for the next wedding, and then $1,600, then maybe $1,900, and then I think I stuck around $2,300 for a pretty long period of time. And rather than going up in price, that was kind of my starting rate. And my starting rate, I would just start taking things out. So it started as like full day, like getting ready to like sparkler send-off coverage like at the end of the night, which I realized after the first wedding was way too much, and I don't enjoy that whatsoever. It's too long of a day, and there's just so much downtime once the party starts. So I kind of rehashed that, and every time that rather than bumping up prices, if I was like, oh, I should be charging more, I'd just be like, I'm gonna make this a 7-hour package, and a 6-hour package, and a 5-hour package, and then no engagement session. And then that became my starting rate, and I think it's important to have an attractive rate to get people at least in the door, so that like they're inquiring, and that at least maybe you're not gonna get every single booking that comes in. They're like, oh, that was just your starting rate, we can't afford you, but maybe you'll get 1 in 5, 1 in 10. Once they inquire, I feel like people are a lot more likely to actually go through your website and go through your Instagram and discover a little bit more about you and actually get more attached to you as a person. And in which case they will likely spend a little bit more money if they've decided that you're a cool person and they'd like to hang out with you on their wedding day. That's kind of my thought and strategy on that. Paul says, I know it's none of my business, but if you could, how you run your business as an LLC, S-Corp, or sole proprietor. So I'm Canadian, which means there's different like LLC names and whatnot. I was a sole proprietor for a very long time, so that little fancy sole proprietor. Sole proprietor for maybe 3 years. When I started getting into commercial video production, I switched to an incorporated company, which I believe is similar to an LLC, which is just a limited liability incorporation that everything kind of exists as its own. I am now an employee of Taylor Jackson, which is really funny. I get a paycheck every Friday. I think that was maybe, I didn't see it at the time, but I think that was maybe one of the most important steps for me to separate kind of my business from my personal life. By getting a paycheck from my business, basically making my business operate to be able to afford to pay me every Friday was kind of like the new goal. And I think having that separation helped me in a lot of ways, mentally and emotionally. And then the liability aspect of it, I also really enjoy. I don't know how much trouble you can get into on a wedding day, but definitely when I got into commercial video production and I was actually signing NDAs and doing work with companies and products that had not been released yet, there is a little bit more liability on that if somebody finds one of my hard drives and is like, oh cool, like let's put this on the news, that these people are working on this and it's 8 months away from production, but I found a documentary on it. So I think there's a little more risk in doing projects like that than weddings. Weddings, I feel like if you're a sole proprietor, you have proper business insurance, which everyone should have, that you're probably gonna be okay. I would say I haven't heard of any really terrible stories, but on the commercial side of things, I would say it's nice to have everything encapsulated nicely. And then outside of that, it's pretty, I guess, standard. I like the fact that in an incorporation that unless I'm withdrawing money from the company, that I'm paying a lot less tax within the business. I think that's very important, to just not give your money to the government unless that's something you're passionate about doing, in which case that's fine. I'd rather give my money to somebody, a charity that does good things with it than just giving it to the government. Although I can't complain, they give us things like healthcare and whatnot. So basically by having it in incorporation means that I pay less tax on the money that's held within my company, and significantly less tax, I would say. Canada, I don't know what the official percentages are, but I feel like I'm in like a 46% tax bracket. And if I'm leaving that money in my company, it looks more in actual life, like 12 to maybe 16%. So if I'm keeping money over my year end, that I'm paying very little tax on it, which I really like. And then also just as a mental separation, I think it's pretty cool. I'll do maybe a full video on the member site kind of that goes more in detail about kind of all of that behind the scenes, because I think there is a lot, and I think that I've just discovered how much there actually is while thinking through it here. All right, Evan says, can you share some failures or worst moments professionally? I understand you worked your way up to where you are today. So I would say I haven't had any massive failures. I've definitely had some like crazy weird stories throughout my life as a wedding photographer, and it'll actually be, I wouldn't call it a failure, but the first chapter, I started writing a book early July, and the first chapter is all kind of about kind of how I handled just like weird and strange and unusual events and what I kind of learned from them. And at the time it seemed like crap, but moving forward, I think that it taught me a lot, and it taught me what I like to do and what I didn't like to do in the wedding space, which I think is also very important. But overall, I think that I'm a firm believer in that you don't really have to make mistakes in order to learn from them. You can just just never make the mistakes if you don't want to. And that's kind of how I've handled my business. And as you know, like I'm maybe not super over prepared for everything, but as far as backups go, I feel like I have redundancies of everything that, and by that I mean that I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to scout your location for your wedding, but when I do go there, I'm going to do the best job that I can, and I'm going to make sure that I have all the gear that I need and everything that that I need to relax any potential problems that could happen. So yeah, first chapter of the book will be coming out hopefully soon, and it'll be part of the members group. So if you're signed up there, it'll be for free, and it'll also be on Audible and on Amazon and all those if you want to buy a printed copy. Bill asked, do you ever offer any in-studio classes at all? We have offered in-studio classes. In the winter, I think it's a good way to make a couple dollars. I wouldn't necessarily run maybe a class on wedding photography to teach all of your local friends exactly what you do. But what I would do is a course on, Lindsay and I would kind of do 2 courses on the same day. So we'd set up one time and we just have some chairs out, coffee, whatnot. She would usually run the morning, which was essentially how to take better photos for just general life. And that would be outside of just, you don't need a digital SLR, but if you have one, great, but just how to take better photos of your family. And it's also, I would say, a lot of people use events like that as just an excuse to get in the same room as other people and to get their friends to go out and do something that they're passionate about doing together. So she would run the morning like that, and then I would run the afternoon as travel photography. So just basically taking better travel photos, as well as a little bit into how to travel the world for nearly free, which is a course that I'm actually updating that I'll be releasing soon on the member site again, which kind of goes into how to use your skills as a photographer and or video creator to get some free stuff out there in the world. I would say that it is a good way to supplement income in the winter. I would say if you can come up with an ongoing thing that people would be kind of coming back monthly for, I think that's even better. Or running like an every other week class that people come in, you send them out with an assignment like black and white architecture photos, and then they come back and then they review them. I feel like that's a lot more of an interactive process, and also people like seeing their work up on the screen in front of like 30 or 40 people, especially when you're an aspiring photographer. So I would say that is definitely a good avenue for potential business in your local area. All right, next questions here. I am going to go through them a little bit quicker because I feel like this is becoming quite a long video. If there's anyone that wants clarification on any answers, feel free to drop it in the comment for next week and I can get back to it. How do you go about legally creating an actual business? I'm at the point, I'm consistently booking weddings and procrastinated legalizing my business. Any tips or suggestions? If you are interested in legalizing your business, I would say there's probably a small business center in your local area, and I would get in touch with them. Here, you can do everything online. I'm sure you can do everything online there as well. But there's usually somebody that's there to help you kind of along the way, or at least give you a couple local suggestions for where you live in the world. Brian asked, do you shoot 2 cameras during couple's first dance? If so, how do you manage off-camera flash shooting with 2 bodies? I'll usually have my off-camera flash on one of my camera bodies. I run 2 camera bodies. One is, I would say, an 85mm lens pretty much all of the time. That'll have my off-camera flash on it. And then I'll also have a wide-angle lens, which is usually a 24. And I'll just have them set to the same settings if required. And I can just move my trigger off. You can actually buy 2 triggers if you wanted, but I find it's easy enough just to like do all the work with the 85 that I want. And then things usually don't happen that fast, and I can just kind of move it off that and set it up on my other one to grab a few frames from the other camera. Brian asks, what is your process for finding and hiring a second photographer? Do you have someone you worked with before? How do you find them? And do you make them sign a contract for you, and roughly what does that contract include? So a lot of our second photographers come from just being friends, friends that have a strong interest in photography and probably have their own camera. I would say that equal to skill for us is somebody that actually meshes well with the day, which means that I don't just hire random people that I haven't met before to come out to a wedding and spend the entire day with them, because they're the face of my brand, and if they interact weirdly with the couple that hired me, that I would say, I don't know, maybe it doesn't reflect more negatively, but it definitely reflects negatively upon me as a brand and as the person that they hired. Even if I guess I'm always in the space that, like, worst case, if my second photographer delivers me no images and no video, that I can still deliver everything that I would need. So I would say that that's kind of also how I structure it in my brain. Because of that, we usually don't do contracts with our personal second photographers because we just know everyone and they're our friends. If I'm hiring somebody extra that I don't know, I will usually have them sign a contract. But basically, it just says that they can't give out their business cards, and when you're there, you're photographing the wedding for me. You're an employee of my business. That even though you are a photographer, that you are currently like a delegate of Taylor Jackson Media. And then I guess your contract and the way that you handle it is completely up to you. But I typically would say that most of the time I'll just bring a laptop, I'll download their cards, they can use those images if they want somewhere else, or I'll take their cards at the end of the day and download them myself. I definitely know photographers that when their second arrives, they give them a fresh card or they give them an entire camera system to just shoot specifically on that. And at the end of the day, they take that camera, they take that lens back, they take the memory card with it, and the second photographer is strictly hired for the day and they are not able to use any of those images, and they don't even have those images if they did want to use them. But it's kind of a sliding scale of whatever you're comfortable with. Richard asked the best way to start portfolio when you have zero content. Experienced photographer, just no weddings. Set up as many shoots as you possibly can. I feel like that's kind of the most important thing that I discovered accidentally and then really relaxed on when I started getting bookings. So I wish I would have just continued through building my own portfolio and creating all the business or all the images that I wanted to have out there in order to attract the business that I actually wanted. Because that's kind of the hard part in the beginning is that you're kind of seen as a button pusher, that you're just there to be hired to be the monkey, press the button. And if you have a strong artistic style that people are already hiring you for before you've shot weddings, and you have wedding images to show, they're going to be a lot more likely to hire you for you and not hire you to just be that button pusher. So I would do everything you can, as I spoke to earlier in this, like that Rodriguez list, just like figure out who you have access to, what friends, what family you can convince to put on a wedding dress, or even put on like a white dress to come out and to have some photos done. Diego says, how do you record your camera when you're making YouTube videos? I have a video on YouTube about that. It's just a GoPro that's attached to a little flash bracket now. It's a bit annoying to have, but it's my life. I'm used to it now. And then some cameras, it's nice. I use it as a handle. It's kind of nice. Justin asked so many questions. I'll keep it one per Q&A. I'm interested in your opinion about metering modes and active delighting. So active delighting is a Nikon thing, and I don't know what the equivalents are. I guess it's like dynamic range or DR in Fuji, and I'm sure Canon has one and Sony has something as well. I use in video mode, so in your photography, it likely isn't affecting the actual raw file, so delighting doesn't matter. In video, it definitely has a strong effect. It's whatever you're seeing on the screen is what it's writing to the video file. So I run delighting on, I think, high or sometimes extra high on my Nikon cameras, because I just really like what it does, that it kind of bumps up the shadows in the bottom and then pulls down the highlights a little bit to give you a little more detail kind of in both. It doesn't technically add dynamic range, but it kind of enhances what you're seeing in a natural, organic way. So I use that kind of on full, and then for metering, I shoot everything manual all the time. I'll usually have, I think my camera's just kind of set to spot meter, so if I ever need to just like have like a quick look at something, I just kind of point whatever the focus block is on that thing, and I quickly expose properly for kind of that. But I would say, depending on which camera system you're shooting, that they'll usually do a pretty good job in matrix metering. I would say, sadly, Leica is by far the best. That if you set your Leica camera to automatic on everything, it will take amazing photos for you. And I know that the camera's not supposed to take amazing photos, but I would say every other camera manufacturer is not there yet. So I would say run manual as much as you can in regards to even just speeding up like post-processing time, I guess, which would be the big thing. That if you shoot a bunch of family photos and you're on aperture priority and like things are moving around in the background and you're getting different exposures, you can't just grab all those images and just do one batch correct on them, whereas you can if you're shooting with everything manually locked down. And then when you get into video as well, it's important to keep everything manual so that you're not getting weird exposure changes or white balance drifts during clips. Lucas asks, what keeps you up at night? And my response to that is that at 5 in the morning right now, the sun rises directly into where I sleep in my bed, and it wakes me up. So I don't know if 5 a.m. is considered nighttime, but it's like a direct line. It's like a laser beam of light every single morning, which I guess is good. Wakes you up. I feel like that's a psychology thing, or maybe actually a physical thing, that if you're feeling tired, rather than just like crushing 50 coffees, if you're like in a dark room, that you can just go outside and all the bright light actually wakes you up, somewhat equivalent to what a coffee would. So stare at the sun. Maybe don't stare at the sun, that's probably bad for you, but go out into the bright light if you want to wake yourself up, I guess. Dan says, how do you find inspiration when you shoot the same venues all the time? I think that I find inspiration just in doing really good work for my couples every single week, and I know that when I'm taking images that are going, like, when you're at the same venues over and over again, every week is kind of a culmination of everything that you've ever learned there, and you know what works and you know what doesn't work. So I would say I do 80% of the stuff that works, and then I try 20% kind of new stuff. And sometimes that's based on like off-camera flash, just playing around with that, or different things, I guess, during the seasons if things are changing, or exploring outside of the venue a little bit further, or whatever it might be. But I just kind of go in every day, and I get some sort of excitement and energy from knowing that I'm doing a really good job for them and making them happy. So I would say that kind of propels me. Got those loud truck problems again. Nathan asks, what is your favorite kind of music? Let's say that again. Nathan asks, what is your favorite kind of music? Top 3 songs. I don't know if I have a top 3 songs. Let's look at Spotify right now. What do I have? I don't think that this is a full representation of what I like. Phoebe Bridgers, Punisher, they're Phoebe's new album. It's very nice. But then I also have Baby Metal and Die Antwoord, which are 2 very unique and interesting bands. We saw Baby Metal in Japan. It was the reason Marshall actually came to Japan, was to see Baby Metal in a huge stadium. Die Antwoord, there's a lot of stories about them. What I've heard is that they're not a band, they're not a music group, that they are some sort of artistic expressionism group. And because of that, they actually get some good money from the South African government. I guess they're cashing in on those, or they were in the beginning, cashing in on those grants that weren't for music, but they were for performance art. So that's kind of what they went with to get paid. Anyways, both Baby Metal and Die Antwoord create insane music that is very interesting to listen to. If you just want to put on something crazy that you're like, what is happening? What is going on? Why is there metal music and 19-year-old Japanese ladies screaming pop songs over it? I think that's fun. Usually how it goes is that if somebody, for instance, my introduction to Phoebe Bridgers was kind of through Connor Oberst, who's Bright Eyes and a bunch of other projects. And then I found out about her other project, which was Boy Genius, which is a very fantastic album as well. I hope that they put out more music specifically. And then from Boy Genius, I discovered the other members of Boy Genius, who are Julian Baker and Lucy Dukakis, and then I started listening to their music, and I feel like that's kind of what's happened, I guess. So I find one person introduces me to somebody, and then I go a little bit deeper overall. So that's my answer to that question right now. Back to the questions. Do you use lens filters on wedding shoots? I do not. I don't use any filters for anything unless I'm shooting a waterfall and I want a 10-stop ND or something like that. I'm going to make a video about that in the future, because there's been a couple of questions recently about just basically that, like, why don't you use an ND when you're out doing video and you're rocking that 1/8000th shutter speed? Why doesn't your footage look crappy? So I'm going to address that as best I can through my limited knowledge in physics, but we'll get to that. Noah says, no, that was Noah's question. Danielle says, favorite way to advertise your business? Right now, Facebook ads, and probably more favorite Instagram swipe up ads. Everyone is on Instagram right now. Well, TikTok did the TikTok thing for a little bit. I feel like it pulled a lot of people. Instagram has Reels that's coming out, I guess, in the next couple of weeks, or maybe you have it depending on where you live in the world. So that's kind of their answer to that. So I'm going to suspect a lot of people are going to come back to Instagram for that, and that TikTok's going to die out just a little bit because of that. So if you missed that wave, which I personally did, maybe don't be too stressed out. I missed the Snapchat wave too, and I'm not, again, too upset about that. Next question, what does a typical day and week look like for you? I feel like you do so much, many dozens of weddings per year, commercial YouTube videos, and I wonder how you manage your agenda with all of this, as well as wife, family, friends. That is my struggle. So I would say over this year is the first year that I've really kind of started to refine what I really do like to do, or what I really enjoy doing. And I really do refer out any work that comes in that doesn't fit those tiers. So this year, I guess there was maybe a bit of a diversion from that because of the fact that there were no weddings happening, and quite honestly, I didn't know if the wedding industry was even going to come back, or I guess maybe there's still some unknowns there. But I would say that any commercial work, I'm now referring to somebody else. I could likely have started kind of a production studio and referred that work to my own business and had associates working under that. I feel like it's just totally fine, like to send video work to Tim or whoever it might be. That it's just, I don't know, if it's not gonna make me happy, I don't really want to be doing it anymore. I can focus more of my time and energy on the jobs that are going to make me happy. I feel like weddings definitely make me, I enjoy every single wedding day. I enjoy all of the process of it. As well as doing YouTube content, I enjoy doing that as well, even if the algorithm is wild and crazy and no longer prioritizing or featuring really any photography-based content, which is a bit of a bummer for all the photo YouTubers. But I think overall, those are kind of the two things that I enjoy doing. So I'm kind of really focusing back onto that now that it is financially, at least it seems more reasonable kind of over time. And then beyond that, it's just a learning process. If anyone says like, hey, here's how you do work-life balance, they're wrong because they don't have it mastered. They just wrote an article about it or something. So I would say that it's a constant learning process and no one has ever or will really ever 100% figure it out. Ryan asks, we've heard about you shooting video. Oh, so this is what I just said. So Ryan basically is saying that I just shoot extremely bright all the time with no ND filter. So I will make a video on that, I promise, because it is important. Kenny says, love to hear worst wedding story, whether bride or stern pastor controlling bridesmaid. In my memory, maybe I've blocked them out. Anytime that I deal with somebody that's bad, I just kind of forget it after the wedding day usually. We've had one bad wedding planner. I've had maybe 2 or 3 pastors that day of were like, by the way, you can't take photos during the ceremony, which was kind of crappy, and we just sat in the very back pew with a 200 and we got a few photos. Outside of that, I feel like everything's been pretty cool. First chapter of the book that will be released to members whenever it gets finished, which will hopefully be in the next couple months maybe. I'm getting it edited and whatnot, so it's gonna be a more intense process than I originally thought. But that'll have the most interesting story, I think, of my first wedding. Steve asks, your recommendations on being a leader in the field is an interesting concept. I've found that many local venues have very poor information and marketing. Feel that I can help, but how do I get traffic to my site once I set these videos up or informal posts up? So I would say your thought of doing a Facebook group for it, I think is good. If there's no local wedding planning Facebook group, you can just build that. As far as generating content, I think SEO-wise, like just search, it will work out pretty well. If you're making a video for a venue and it's on YouTube, Google owns YouTube, so it's gonna show that up somewhere, as well as pulling stills from it to put on maybe a Pinterest board or on your blog that will rank in Google Images if anyone's searching, as well as putting it on Instagram with a location tag to the venue that people can organically discover it that way. And then also I would say just running some paid ads to it as well, that if you're spending a little bit of money to promote something that is going to help people, it's likely that a lot of people are going to share it, whether that's publicly or whether that's actually just sharing it to the people that they know are interested by copying the link and sending it to them. I think that it will get some good traffic. So I think above all else, just go out and create something that is helpful and useful for people. And I think that it will find traction. It will find some distances and be well worth your time. Jennifer says, I know you pre-ordered an R5. Are you going to get the R6 to check out photography hybrid? I'm concerned it's not really an upgrade from the USR. I agree. So I will be getting an R5 potentially. There's some issues with the local dealer that I work with here. If I don't get an R5, I will be getting an R6. The main upgrade from the R, I think, I guess there's a few, but the main one for me is just in-body stabilization. That the stabilization on the R lenses, at least in my experience, really isn't that great. Like the 15 to 35, there's some stabilization happening there, but there's not a whole lot. That's my main experience with it. The 35 was pretty good though. But I think with in-body stabilization paired with those lenses, I'm going to be able to get away with a lot more handheld use. But I would say that the USR, if you're not going to be using in-body stabilization, that it probably is a pretty good buy still. 2 card slots would maybe be the other, just kind of my nervous energy, like that I would much rather go with an R6 to do 2 card slots. But yeah, I'll report back. I'll make a video on that whenever I get that. If I get the R5, I don't know. Basically, the allocation process in Canada is a little bit weird, and it prioritizes the big box stores over small brands. So that's why I work with a small company here, so they might not get proper allocation. I hope that they do. Travis says, will you do a comparison on the 58 1.4 and the 50 1.4 for Nikon? I would say the 58 has a character and presence that no other lens really has. It does come with a bit of a learning curve, and it does some weird things, and it's not optically the greatest lens that you're ever going to find. It's also kind of slow. Well, it's fast aperture, but slow to autofocus. I would say the 58, you can find them, unless you already own it, but you can find them now for pretty inexpensive. The resale value on them is roughly, I would say, half of what you buy them new for. So you can get good deals on them, and I think that it is a really fantastic lens, and I hope that Nikon for Z series, that they do a 58 that's more realistic than the f.95 that they put out, which is really, really ridiculous. So I would say if you have the money for it, the 58 is really awesome. I think that it creates a feeling and an aesthetic to an image that really nothing else does, regardless, like any brand, any company. And then the Nikon 51.4s, I've always had kind of mixed results with it. That it basically, the 51.4, it doesn't give you the, I guess, that aesthetic character that I spoke to, but it does give you all the negative things that happen with the 58, like fringing and whatnot. So I would say 58 if possible, but the 1.450 is really, really inexpensive. All right, Hendrik says, what is your opinion on the Fuji X-T4 for wedding photography hybrid coverage? I'm a Fuji user. I would say that it is a fantastic camera, with the exception of the preamp that I've spoken to already in this video. The preamp's not so good, so if you're doing hybrid coverage with audio, I would definitely be making sure that I was having the backups kind of all around, to make sure that I'm not relying necessarily on the shotgun microphone that's up here. But I think it's definitely great. The buffer is pretty quick, and also having the physical switch in a very ergonomic spot it makes things pretty easy, and having the same button to start and record video as well as your shutter, I think is definitely good. I would say it's definitely one of my better recommendations for hybrid at this point. And then as a travel camera too, I absolutely love it. So I think it's a fantastic system, and I'm sad that the preamp's not good, but I'll stop talking about that now. But I suspect I got a bad copy of it because the preamp literally broke. And had that not happened, I would have assumed that all X-T4s had the same weird issue, but because of my recent experience, maybe it's totally fine. Outside of that, I would say newer lenses are generally better. That the older lenses, I've had some weird video autofocus glitches, unless you're going manual focus, that they're not nearly as good. Right now, this is the kit, the 18 to 55, 2.8 to f4, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, I would say newer lenses are better. Older lenses might give you some problems, so maybe just be ready to just kind of manual focus override if ever needed. Lucas says, Taylor, quality-wise, better the Tamron 7200 G2 or the Nikon 7200 VR2. I would go Tamron in that case. I would take the 7200 FL, which is Nikon's probably the best 7200 that's ever been made, really, by any manufacturer. That's I would say the best, but it comes with a price tag that is very expensive. In the realm, and also quality-wise, you're not really gaining a whole lot over going with the Tamron G2. The Tamron G2, and especially for how much I now use my 7200, I probably should have gone for the G2, but now that I own the good one, I might as well keep it until something goes wrong. Sean says, what autofocus settings do you use on the D780 for video? I am still kind of experimenting with that. I haven't done any full wedding days with it yet, so I've just been kind of running. I think everything is pretty standard actually to what it is, and I use AFS, so I'm not constantly on autofocus. I need to be holding down half pressing to track focus. And then I'm also probably going to be spending most of my time on single point rather than face detect or anything like that. I feel like if I could just be moving the little box around to be on people's faces if I want that, that's kind of what I would like. I feel the same with photography as well, that I don't use a whole lot of face detect, not that you can on the 780 and through the viewfinder, just on live view. Cheryl says, strategies for getting more work when things seem to have dried up. It's winter here in New Zealand. Yeah, winter's gonna be hard, especially it's very strange because we've gone through the pandemic, at least in the summer. I guess New Zealand, you guys have kind of recovered almost. I would say you handled it probably the best. I appreciate that you had scientists in control of the situation, which was really cool. I would say, kind of speaking back to just working with businesses and figuring out how to do, whether it's photography or photo video coverage for different businesses, and just create really good work for people. And I feel like that just starts out with one business. And for instance, with us, that if we do a headshot session for a realtor, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to post that online, they're going to tag us, and then we're going to have 3 more emails from 3 different realtors within the next couple of weeks or even that day. So I would say just go out and just start creating some work that specifically interests you and or benefits somebody that you already know, that you can set up a shoot to be like, hey, I'm going to make a promotional video for you, so I have a sample to show to 50 other companies that can potentially hire me. I would say something like that would be kind of my play, and what we specifically did during kind of this entire the recent pandemic, I suppose. Second question, fast-moving toddlers for family sessions. Why is AI focus slower than one shot? I'm Canon R and trying to figure out what's best focus mode to be in. I haven't used a whole lot of fast-moving stuff on the Canon R, so I might not be the official person to ask. If you can find somebody that uses the Canon R for either probably sports or maybe even like wildlife on YouTube, I would say maybe check out what they use for autofocus settings, because I feel like toddlers are essentially fast-moving wildlife. But yeah, I also personally am somebody that doesn't use as I said before, like I don't use face detector, eye detector, anything like that. I just use the little box on people. So I'm a little bit more in control that way, I find. But then also when I really tested this hard on the Nikon Z6, that the face and eye really wasn't to the point that I wanted it to be. So I kind of got turned off of that from a very early start. So if it works really well, it might also come down to lenses as well, that if it's a slower to focus lens, it might just be based on that as well. So hopefully that was, I don't know, somewhat helpful, but sorry I can't be more helpful. Where can I subscribe to the podcast, please? I'm new to this group. There is a link in the description that you can go to, and for the time being, they're going to be public there, and then eventually they'll probably come back to the member site, and they'll be, I'll figure out how to do that. I ran into a struggle, so Patreon, you can upload easy audio, you can kind of index it somewhat easily-ish, not really. But the new site, I wanted to set up like an RSS and have a secret kind of podcast link, but I can't do that yet, but they say they're working on it. So hopefully within the next couple of months, that'll be a thing that's possible. Next question, what do you think about using a non-full frame camera for weddings? Why Nikon full frame or shoot Fuji crop sensor? Honestly, like if you're on Fuji and you're shooting one of the newer cameras, you don't even need, the X-T4 is not necessary if you're not shooting video. I think it's totally 100% fine. I wouldn't push you out of that to go with a full frame system. I personally like full frame because I really do shoot a lot of very, very shallow depth of field, and I really utilize that a lot. If that wasn't my style and that wasn't what I aesthetically liked the most, I would likely probably be on Fuji, or I probably would have switched a long time ago, and maybe I don't know where I'd be now, but it was definitely an attractive solution. But at the time, I really just was addicted to shooting at like f1.4 for absolutely everything, which is maybe a positive, maybe a negative. I don't know, people seem to be enjoying it. Just about to purchase Godox V1 flash, wondering if I should get the X2TN or the Xpro N transmitter. I think they're both good. The X2TN is the one I believe that has the hot shoe slot on the top. So if you want to be shooting an on-camera flash as well, even though it makes like the most ridiculous like hot shoe like wide than long flash and looks dumb, it's kind of nice to have. Although if you are using an on-camera flash, you can just be using that as the transmitter. So maybe I would say the Xpro N is nicer. Godox sent me both, and they told me to promote the X2TN, but I think that I like the X Pro more. But again, if you want to have a second camera or a second flash up top there, and you want some easier controls, the X2TN might be worth looking at. Also, they're very, in the scheme of things, very inexpensive, I would say, in regards to what like Pocket Wizard stuff used to cost. So I would say if you get one and you're not loving it, like that the other one, maybe get that and sell the other one on Kijiji or whatever. Ender says, how do you organize your contracts and brides' cell phone numbers? Do you tag conversations and keyword define it later? I find that they disappear when you try to convert them to close the sale. So as far as, I guess, contacts and everything, typically I don't chase people. I'll send one follow-up usually, but I won't go really much beyond that. So if a week goes by, or I guess 5 days goes by, it'll pop back up just naturally into my Google inbox. So I usually use that as kind of my reminder. After that, I don't really chase anyone too hard. And then as far as organizing everything, I just have, I physically print things out. So I actually have a physical printed box of all the contracts in case anything were to happen. And then I also keep everything on Google Drive just to have everything like that organized. And then I have a link to that, kind of their folder in my actual calendar. So if I have, say, whoever's wedding's coming up on Saturday, there's a link to go back to kind of all their documents. That's with my older ones. And then with, if you're using something like HoneyBook or you're using Dubsavo or whatever it might be, I think that's what it's called. If you're using something like that, it makes everything a heck of a lot easier for you. My struggle was that it was just a lot of setup time and it was not fun setup time. So if you do have the time to invest in it, maybe set up some sort of CMS system, client management system, just to have that kind of all in one spot. And then you can actually schedule reminders to be sent out. So people, if they don't respond, that they'll get hit with another email and you don't even have to worry about it at all. So it's like you type that email one time and then that just is an action that happens in the future, which is really cool. All right, four more questions. This one's about outsourcing. Nicholas says, how do you step out of editing yourself and calculate the customer price for editing services accordingly? I internalize all of that, and then I essentially, rather than charging them any money for it, I just spend the time that I've saved just booking new work. That's kind of maybe incorrect business-wise, maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's fine. You're saving the hours there, you're spending some money, but you are getting those hours back to invest into marketing again. Or I would just say that it's kind of paying for your own freedom. If it's for a commercial job, usually what I'll do is I'll have kind of like one editing session or two editing sessions depending on the complexity of the project. And then after that I'll have basically per edit session and then also an hourly. So if they come back and they're like, hey, can you do like 45 more hours of motion graphics for us? I'll be like, yeah, but you know the price. And then also make that price a price that you're not gonna be upset if they actually do go down on, like if they wanna book that, which I've done in the past where I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know, 50 an hour if you need anything extra. And then they gave me a list of just like the most boring edits. And they were ones that I couldn't send out to outsource because it was NDA. But basically, like just, you're buying your time back. So I feel like it's fine to internalize some of that and then to spend that time actually booking new work. What is the most effective way to use Facebook ads, targeted audience, choices, regions to advertise, promoting a website, boosting a post? I think the content is the most important aspect of that if you're making good content that people want to share, that is genuinely helpful, that when people click through, they actually stay there and they actually like send that to link to somebody else that's getting married. I think if you're doing that, we're in such a high margin industry that even if you end up paying like on the individual click that somebody uses to get to your site to book you for a wedding, if they spend $3, I would say that is like a $3, it won't be ever that expensive, but it feels like that is totally fine for me. So I don't mind overspending a little bit on ads in order to generate even one single booking, because basically one booking would negate even, I would say, up to like $600 in ad spend. I would say that if I was spending $600 to book a $3,000 wedding, I would be quite happy overall with that. So I would say making good content that people want to interact with. Making video content, I found specifically is it's very easy for Facebook. Facebook wants people to stay on their website. So if you're uploading embedded content there, so if you're uploading it actually to Facebook and you're promoting that video, they're going to ask for a lot less money from you overall. Truck life. They're going to ask for a lot less money from you overall for somebody to watch that video. And then if there's a link in there, they're still going to spend the same to actually click the link. So maybe it's like 35, 40, 50 cents, whatever it might be. But by that point, they've already watched your entire video and they've become comfortable with you, and they're a lead that is a lot more likely to convert. Now they're like super qualified when they click that link. They're not just going to a page, they have an action in mind that they want to contact you. So I would say by making video and promoting that video content, whether that's on an Instagram story swipe up, or what I've seen working better even in this current state and time is on Facebook, and just doing that, because Facebook is really heavily prioritizing video content. So by creating video content for them to promote, they're gonna, I don't know, you can also enable ads, so you can get some of your ad spend back if you want to, if they, I don't know. I feel like you're watching, so this is a complex topic. So on YouTube specifically, I set my account up, and for a significant period of time, I disabled all ads. So if you came to one of my videos, you are not gonna watch an ad before you got to the video. I hated watching ads. I never wanted to be that YouTube person. And then, I guess last year at Sony Kando, I was sitting in a group with, it might have been like iJustine or somebody, or Jenna, and they mentioned that if you're not if you're not monetizing your videos, YouTube has literally no reason to show that video to anyone. So they prioritize you down like remarkably far. So I don't know if Facebook's going to go the same way, that basically if they're like, well, we're not going to spend the money to stream this video for these people if if you're boosting it, obviously they're collecting money, but they're not going to organically show it to a lot of people because at the end of the day, if they're not getting any ad money off that, they're not going to be wanting to promote that. YouTube definitely does that. I've seen some significant results when I changed from just like not monetizing anything to monetizing a few specific videos, and then I realized that if I want YouTube to show my videos to anyone, that it makes sense to just have everything monetized. So sorry if you have to watch ads before my videos, but that's why. So maybe that's probably a big takeaway if you're a content creator, because that took me, I'm going to say 3 years of creating like good content to figure out like what wasn't working, and it was literally because I did not turn on Facebook ads because I thought it was the nice thing to do, but apparently Facebook doesn't believe that way. Next question, 2 questions left. Amanda asks, how long did it take you to edit those first few wedding albums you edited before you had your workflow all figured out? I would say, I guess this is a complex question because I started editing, I did not have Aperture and Lightroom didn't exist, so I had to individually edit images in Photoshop with Photoshop Actions. So I would say each individual wedding took me probably 8 to 10 hours of just like actual work. And then because you're editing all disconnected like that I wasn't editing through Camera Raw or anything. When I got to the end of the gallery, the look of the entire gallery had changed depending on like kind of when I was editing, if I was editing at nighttime and the screen was bright, or if I was editing during the day. So I would have to go back and kind of readjust everything. I'm very happy that Lightroom exists, and I should have used Aperture at that time, but I didn't. I would say probably 8 to 10 hours was probably normal in that time. I would say now I'm closer probably to an hour and a half if I was to sit down and just really kind of work hard on it. But that comes down to, that's not editing time, that's like the time on the day to make sure all your settings are 100% correct when you're like sitting there to get the white balance right and all the manual settings required. So I would say that that's like an achievable, like I would say even a 2-hour mark is something that is completely achievable. It's all about just like sitting down and being like, all right, for the next 2 hours, my schedule is clear, like notifications are off, I'm not gonna answer any emails, not gonna answer any phone calls, gonna flip the phone upside down and listen to some music and just like do it. If you're able to do that, I feel like you'll be able to get down to 2 hours pretty quickly. All right, last question here. How did you go about setting up your LLC, and do you have any recommendations for people in the US who are not business savvy? I'll find somebody, maybe I'll talk to Sam Hurd about LLCs and stuff, because I figure that's probably what his company is, and maybe I'll ask him to do a guest video on it with me in some way, maybe if we can ever see each other again, or maybe I can just ask him to record one, because I feel like he knows some things that I would not know as a Canadian. So hopefully that video comes in the future. But yeah, I would recommend that there's probably a small business center, there's probably some sort of business help in your local area that you can use, or you can call somebody and they'll be able to guide you through the process, and that's probably their job to do. So there's probably no scam or like back-end sale there. They're probably legitimately doing it to help you set up your business, because that's what they're paid to do. That is all for today. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you getting through this, and I'll see you again next week, or I guess I'll see you probably before then. This is the first time in a very long period of time that I have no content lined up to like come out tomorrow or the next day. So I don't know what's Friday, what's Saturday gonna be? I have no idea. Oh, I actually do have something for next week. We have one, it's a very special thing. I'll tease it now. We haven't figured out how we launch this. So last year in June, so a little bit over a year ago, we recorded a short film. I went out to Iceland with my friend Blair and also Tim, and we shot a short film. Originally, we wanted to submit it to TIFF, and then we were too slow. We tried to, or I guess it would have been May, so the TIFF deadline, end of May, and then we were recording this at the beginning of May, and we're like, we're gonna edit it all on site, we're gonna submit it before we leave, and it's gonna be amazing. And then we missed that deadline, and then we missed this year's TIFF deadline, which was, I think, like June 15th, the late deadline. And then we were looking at Sundance, and we were like, hey, should we send this short to Sundance? And then we're like, it's not really gonna be a fun experience because everything's online this year. So we're like, do we sit on it for like another year? And we're like, nah, like we'll just put it out on YouTube. So next Monday or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, this short film that we did is going to be coming out to YouTube, and hopefully it gets in front of some people. YouTube's algorithm's a bit tricky, so I don't know if you'll see it, but maybe turn the bell notification on to get a little notification whenever it goes on. Otherwise, I'll do my best to promote it, so hopefully you do come across it. I think it's pretty cool little film. Tim gets to star as a wolf. He got nicknamed the Whiskey Wolf because he's in full wolf mode, and then one day he was drinking whiskey in the costume, and so he became the Whiskey Wolf, which I think is kind of funny. But it's a good thing, I think, and I hope that you enjoy it. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the members group. Thanks for watching this on YouTube. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. Have a good day, wherever you are. See, like, I've been doing YouTube videos for like 8 years and I still have no idea how to end a YouTube video. Please, somebody tell me. RIP XT4 preamp.